It all started on a rainy Wednesday evening. The kind of rain that seemed to wrap around your bones and sink you deeper into whatever thoughts you were already stuck in. I was in the kitchen, finishing up dinner when my husband, David, came through the door looking a little more concerned than usual. I could tell something was up by the way he lingered before saying anything. He walked over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Babe, Jake's going through it. Mind if he comes over for a few days?" Jake was David's best friend since high school. They were practically brothers. I'd always liked Jake. He was easy to talk to, kind-hearted, and had that dry sense of humor that grew on you. But I hadn't seen him in months. The last I heard, he was engaged to someone named Rachel. "Of course," I said, without hesitation. "What happened?" David shook his head. "She left him. Just packed her things and ended it. No warning, nothing." I felt my chest tighten with sympathy. That kind of pain, being blindsided by someone you trusted, it changes you. When Jake arrived later that night, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked exhausted, like sleep hadn't touched him in days. His usually neat hair was a mess, and the light in his eyes seemed dimmed. He gave me a half smile as I opened the door. "Hey, Lisa," he said, voice rough. "Thanks for letting me crash." I gave him a warm hug. "You're always welcome here." We didn't talk much that night. He just needed a warm meal and a quiet space. David and he stayed up talking in the living room while I went to bed early, giving them space. But even from upstairs, I could hear the low murmur of conversation and sometimes a laugh that didn't quite sound real. Over the next few days, Jake settled into our guest room. David worked long shifts at the hospital, so it ended up being me and Jake spending most of the day together. At first, he mostly kept to himself, eating quietly, sitting out on the back porch with a coffee in hand, staring at nothing in particular. I didn't push. I just made sure he had what he needed. Slowly, he started opening up. It began with small talk, asking about my work, the neighbors, what I was making for dinner. Then one afternoon, while we were watching a movie, he said, "I really thought she was the one." I paused the movie and turned to face him. "Do you want to talk about it?" He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't even know where to start." And so he told me how he had proposed to Rachel after 3 years of dating, how they had already picked out a venue and a guest list, how she had seemed happy, excited even, until one morning she told him she felt like she wasn't ready. And just like that, she was gone. I listened, not interrupting. I knew he didn't need advice. He needed someone to hear him. I saw the way his voice cracked, the way he looked away when emotions got too strong. That night, after he went to bed, I sat by myself for a while, heart aching for him. In the days that followed, we started developing a routine. I'd make breakfast, and we'd sit outside drinking coffee. We talked about books, movies, food, life. He had this gentle way of speaking, and I found myself genuinely enjoying his company. There was no tension, no awkwardness, just a quiet understanding. One afternoon, I was out in the backyard planting some herbs. Jake came over, rolled up his sleeves, and offered to help. We worked side by side in the dirt, hands messy, sunlight warm on our backs. At one point, he looked at me and said, "You're easy to be around. I don't think I've been able to relax like this in weeks." I smiled, wiping sweat from my brow. Sometimes healing just needs a bit of sunshine and dirt. He chuckled, and for the first time, I saw a genuine smile on his face. David noticed the change too. "You're good for him," he told me one evening as we were getting ready for bed. "Thanks for being there. I wish I had more time to hang with him, but he seems to be doing better." I nodded. "He's just hurt. But he's strong. He'll come back from this." The truth was, Jake's presence had brought something peaceful into our home. Despite the reason for his visit, it felt natural having him around. One night, there was a storm. The kind with loud thunder and power flickers. David was on a night shift, and Jake and I ended up playing cards by candlelight in the kitchen. The mood was light, but somewhere between laughter and conversation, he got quiet again. "Do you think some people just aren't meant to be loved?" he asked softly. I put my cards down. "No. I think everyone deserves love, but not everyone knows how to give it back." He looked at me then, really looked, and something shifted in the air. It wasn't romantic, not exactly. It was vulnerable, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with attraction. It was two people understanding each other's pain without judgment. The following morning, Jake made breakfast for the first time since he arrived. He was humming along to the radio, flipping pancakes like it was second nature. "Look who's feeling human again," I teased. He grinned. "Don't get used to it." But I could tell. He was slowly finding his way back. Weeks passed, and life started to feel more balanced. Jake began going on runs, updating his resume, and even talking about moving into his own place again. He was healing. One afternoon, I came home from work to find him painting in the backyard. "You paint?" I asked, surprised. "Used to," he replied. "Thought I'd try again." I watched as he brought a canvas to life with colors and brushstrokes. It was beautiful, full of emotion. I felt proud of him in a way I couldn't quite explain. Eventually, Jake told us he was ready to move out. "I found a small apartment near the lake," he said over dinner one evening. "Time to start over." David clapped him on the back. "Proud of you, man." I smiled, but I felt a pang of sadness. It had been nice having him around. On the day he left, I helped him load his things into the car. As he closed the trunk, he turned to me. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Lisa. You helped me remember who I am." I hugged him tightly. "You were always in there. You just needed time." He smiled and got in the car, waving as he drove off. That night, the house felt quieter. David wrapped his arms around me on the couch. "You're amazing, you know that?" he whispered. I rested my head on his shoulder. "Just tried to be a friend." But it had been more than that. Helping Jake reminded me of how strong empathy could be. How sometimes the best way to help someone isn't by fixing them, but by simply showing up over and over until they can stand again. A few months later, we got a postcard. It was from Jake. On the front was a picture of a beach, and on the back it said, "I met someone. She's kind. She makes me laugh. I think I'm going to be okay. Thank you, always. Jake." I read it twice, smiling through tears. Healing wasn't linear, but Jake had made it through the darkness. And in some small way, I had been part of that. It felt like the kind of quiet victory you keep close to your heart, a reminder that kindness, even the smallest kind, really can change someone's life.